Most of you are absolutely terrified of being forgotten. You wake up, and the first thing you do is check a glowing rectangle to see if the world still knows you exist. You post your breakfast, you post your workout, you post your deep thoughts, not because you have something to offer, but because you are afraid of the silence. You're afraid that if you stop shouting, the world will realize it never needed you in the first place. This is the visibility trap. Society has tricked you into believing that attention is currency. They've convinced you that being seen is the same thing as being important. But I'm here to tell you that your need to be seen is exactly why you're still weak. Your need for validation is a leash, and every person who follows you or knows you is holding the other end of that leash. When people see you, they define you. They anchor you to who you were yesterday. They expect you to act according to the version of you they have stored in their heads. As long as you are visible, you are a slave to their perception. To truly change, to become something the world doesn't expect, you must first become a ghost. You must enter the ghost protocol. Every relationship you have, every friendship, every casual acquaintance comes with a hidden social tax. Think about it. Why do you go to that Friday night hangout when you know you should be working? Because you're afraid of being the guy who doesn't show up. Why do you keep responding to that toxic ex or that bro who only talks about video games? Because you're afraid of being forgotten. Psychologists call this sociometer theory. It's an evolutionary drive that tells us our self-esteem is just a gauge of our social inclusion. Back when we lived in tribes, being forgotten meant being left behind to be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. But in 2026, being forgotten is the only way to pay off your debt to society and finally invest in yourself. Every person who knows you owns a piece of your identity. They expect you to be funny or quiet, or the guy who's always struggling. When you are visible, you're constantly performing a role you wrote years ago. You're trapped in the character arc that your friends and family have designed for you. The only way to rewrite the script is to burn the theater down. You must leave the stage. You must cease to be an object in their reality so you can become a subject in your own. There is a fundamental difference between monk mode and the ghost protocol. Monk mode is about discipline. The ghost protocol is about identity death. When you enter this state, something happens to your brain. Without the constant drip of dopamine from social notifications, your default mode network begins to reset. This is the part of the brain responsible for self-reflection and social processing. In a world of constant visibility, your DMN is overworked. It's always worrying about what they think. When you go dark, the noise stops. Research shows that deep solitude, when chosen intentionally, boosts the executive function of the prefrontal cortex. You aren't just getting work done, you are literally rewiring your neural pathways to prioritize results over recognition. Think of the great creators of history. Isaac Newton didn't discover calculus while attending parties. He discovered it when a plague forced him to go dark for 2 years. He became a ghost to the world so he could become a giant to history. You cannot achieve Titan-level output while you are worried about your Instagram engagement. The ghost protocol is the period of incubation where your skills are forged in a vacuum, away from the corrosive influence of public opinion. Disappearing is an art. It's not about being a hermit. It's about selective invisibility. Pillar 1, digital erasure. You don't announce you're leaving. You don't post a mental health break story. That's just a plea for someone to stop you. You simply stop. You delete the apps. You stop checking the feeds. You become a dead link in the social network. The aim is to make people wonder if they ever really knew you at all. Pillar 2, environmental shift. If you stay in the same rooms, talking to the same people, you will think the same thoughts. You need to change your seed audience. If your current circle sees you as a May 10th, you will act like a May 10th. When you go dark, you remove the anchors of your past. You find new spaces where no one knows your name, where you can test out the new version of yourself without judgment. Pillar 3, the alchemy of focus. This is the hardest part. Once the silence sets in, the demons come out. Without the distraction of other people, you are forced to face your own inadequacy. This is where most people quit. They realize that without an audience, they don't know who they are. The ghost protocol forces you to build a self that doesn't require an observer to exist. One day, the ghost protocol ends, but you don't return to the world as the person who left it. Imagine a man who disappears for 6 months. No posts, no calls, no check-ins. When he finally walks back into the room, his voice is deeper because it hasn't been wasted on gossip. His eyes are sharper because they've been focused on a mission. His frame is heavier because he spent his solitude under the iron. This is the shock of the new. The people who forgot, you are suddenly confronted with a version of you that they can't categorize. They try to use their old remote control buttons, they try to tease you, or bring up the past, and they find that none of it works. You have become a stranger to your own history. This is the ultimate victory of the sovereign man. You didn't just improve, you mutated. You used the psychology of being forgotten to kill the weak version of yourself so that the strong version could take its place. The world only remembers the men who were brave enough to be forgotten first. Stop shouting. Stop begging. Stop performing. Go dark. Build in the shadows. Stay sovereign.